welcome back to the Dice Tower. It has been a busy week. We got a lot of stuff up last week, although I did learn that I shouldn't say there's a big video coming, because then I apparently hype it beyond belief, and did not mean to do that. I really thought a review of Pandemic Legacy was a big deal, and I think it is, but I don't know what some people were expecting, something big and unusual. But we do have some interesting things coming this week. Today at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I'll do a question and answer. So I hope to see some of you then and talk to you then. You can come on live and ask questions. And you can vote in the People's Choice Top 100. You can go to our website and vote there. So I hope that you have a chance to get involved there and vote for your favorite games. And we'll be doing the People's Choice Top 100 very soon. This week, I and Z Garcia will be at the Grand Con, which is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So if you're in that area, we hope you come by and say hi. We'll be doing a couple things. We'll be running a Wits and Wagers show. We'll be playing some games of Sheriff of Nottingham for charity, and just hanging out and seeing people and saying hi and playing games with folks. So hopefully you have a good time and you can see us there. All right, well, it's time for news. Okay, first in the news, Z Garcia. It was his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to Z. Secondly, Mayfair has announced King Chocolate. This is great. You're going to become you're trying to be the best, biggest chocolate maker in the world. What a great theme. That seems like such a more fun thing to be than to charge of some thief somewhere. So hopefully that's a good game. R&R has announced a trio of games. One that interests me the most is Gobblestones, which looks kind of like an app come to life as a board game. So hopefully that is what it's like, where you're gobbling up stones for whatever reason. Cool Mini or Not has announced that they're going to be bringing Potion Explosion. This is a game from Horrible Games. Horrible Games is also the original people who did Dungeon Fighter, where you bounce dice off. I like their stuff. So this is good, and Cool Mini or Not continues to, they're not just kickstarting games, but also just straight up publishing games too. Stoneblade has announced Ascension Year 2, the collector's thing. So this is kind of like foil cards and a whole bunch of expansions in one box. Is the second one that they've done like that. And Snakes and Lattes, you may know these guys. They are on our show, usually near the end, and they have a sitcom coming out. You can see the trailer for it online now about board game cafes. And there's a few people from the cafe in the sitcom itself, but it's actors and things doing a show about two people trying to start up a cafe.
Okay, welcome friends. So now for many of you, you may have different times of year that get you excited from a gaming point of view. You may be big into a convention, such as the Dice Tower Con, or Origins, or Gen Con, or BGG Con, or whatever. Or you may be really big into following the Spiel des Jahres, and you can't wait until that gets announced and the nominees come out and whatnot. Now, for me, my favorite time of year from a board game standpoint is right now, because we have going on the Dice Tower People's Choice Top 100 Games of All Time.
The Dice Tower People's Choice Top 100 Games of All Time.
I started doing Whitleypedia because I had some opinions on the Dice Tower People's Choice and some of the other lists that we do here. Specifically vis-a-vis how much better of a barometer that is for what games are playing compared to the BGG Top 100. Now, of course, I don't want to get into that debate right now, but what I do want to do is give a shout out and reinforce everything that Tom's already said about the importance of voting. About 20,000 people every week watch Board Game Breakfast, but only about 2,000 people every year vote for the People's Choice Top 100. So that means there are 18,000 people out there, let's call them registered voters in Dice Tower Nation, who are not voting. So, we got a few weeks. Go to the Dice Tower, vote. If you vote for 20, that's great. If you vote for 10, that's great. If you vote for 5, that's great. If you vote for 1, that's great. We want to get as many people voting there as we can. And I'll see you on the flip side.
all set up. All right, let's play. Wow. Wow, this looks pretty good. How long did it take you to set up? Oh, half an hour? All right, sure. Yeah, let's play this.
Hey folks, what's coming out this week? First of all, many different podcast episodes. I mentioned last week that there were 4 new podcasts that joined the Dice Tower Network. You can find out all that on Dice Tower. Check out all the different podcasts there. Also, lots of different reviews. I'm excited to be talking about Terra from Bezier Games, Seven Wonders Duel, the expansion for Flick 'em Up, the Portal board game, Star Wars, Death Star, Boom Boom Balloon, and other board games. Let's check back. Z will be doing some, Sam will be doing some, our contributors. But what we're really excited about this week is we're doing some previews for Essen. Essen Spiel Fair happens every year. This year there is over 600 games coming out of Essen. That would take forever for us to talk about. So we narrowed it down to 100 games that we thought were really interesting. And we're going to split those up, 20 games in different videos, so you can watch them in bits and pieces and hopefully get some idea of what's coming out at the fair. There's a lot of cool games, and we'll be talking about those. Those will be going up tomorrow, so I hope you enjoy them. Also, Top 100s will continue. I got 2 more in my series coming this week. Jason has 2 more in his series. Eric has another one. And so all the series are coming to a close before Essen. Should be interesting. All right. See you soon.
Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here, and yesterday I received in the mail a delivery of games that I had purchased the week before. Woohoo! Now, with any new batch of games, I sat down right away and started combing through its bits and pieces. But my plans this time were cut short when I discovered an oddity within my Secret Wars expansion for Marvel Legendary. Just what happened? Well, it went something like this.
Dun-dun.
I was opening my wholesale delivery that day,
Just begun.
and I picked up this box from this Marvel Legendary game.
Volume 1.
They sometimes sell me weird and exotic expansions.
More cards, more fun.
Cause they know that, you see, well, board games are my hobby.
Da 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 da.
They didn't include anything unusual there in that game.
Look below.
So I was just about to, sleeve them up.
Ultra Pro.
When suddenly, and without warning, there was this...
Totally blank pack of cards.
They seemed like a lark, and there was a strange lack of documentation, like some kind of printing error.
The wow.
And when I opened the box, these weird cards were just sitting there.
Holy cow.
Just, stuck in among the zombie green goblins.
This I vow.
I could have sworn they hadn't been in expansions before, but Upper Deck sold them to me anyways, for $39.95. In my heart of hearts, I sincerely want to believe that perhaps someone at Upper Deck was just feeling that strange combination of generous but totally unmotivated. And while they really wanted to include something extra for the fans, they just couldn't muster up the effort to include some additional characters, or schemes, or bystanders, or wounds, dividers, or a rules quick reference, which would have been nice, or even blank cards with a white side that you can actually write stuff on. Oh, and then there... So, do you think that this type of thing is something that we'll suddenly see more of in the future? And if you have a copy of the Marvel Legendary Secret Wars expansion, what have you used these blank cards for? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll take the best response that we receive, and I'm not gonna do anything. Hey, who's feeling completely generous but totally unmotivated now? Me.
Game Brawl, and over on my channel I reviewed 6 games last week, as well as putting up my top 10 anticipated games of Essen 2015, and showing off some Kingdom Death Monster miniatures, so take a look at that. Here are the games from last week in order of worst to best. Versus System 2PCG is a reprint of the original Versus System, this time in living card game format. I never played the original. I found this one dull, boring, repetitive, and I think there's a reason it went out of print. Then we have Barony from Madagot and Asmodee. This is another beautiful looking Madagot game. I think it's a solid game. It's a bit too dry for me, unfortunately, but I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy it. Then we have Avarium Academy, which is from Malaysian developer Chain Links Games. This one came out of nowhere. It's a really cool anime theme. Of course, I'm a sucker for that, but I really like the card drafting elements and how you put people into your squad. There's interesting objectives everyone that is working towards, as well as just being able to cream your opponent. I don't like the take that elements in the combat system that much, but otherwise, cool game. Then we have Dai Yu the Flood Conqueror, the most uniquely named game I'm taking a look at. This is from a Taiwanese board game developer, and it's a really interesting theme of trying to stop all these different floods from happening, but really it's just trying to use different cards to gain these flood cards as victory points. It's hard to explain. Take a look. I liked it quite a bit. Then we have Cthulhu Realms, which is a re-theme of Star Realms. This version is from Tasty Minstrel Games, and I think I like this one better because of the artwork, because of the fact that it plays 3 to 4 players right out of the box. I don't like the iconography in the game, but otherwise, it's really, really good. And then finally, we have Mafia de Cuba, which is a really, really interesting social deduction party game. Better with more players for sure, but it uses the box. It's a really cool element. You're trying to figure out who's stealing from you. Difficult to explain as well, but do take a look at it. I think it's really going to turn the social deduction genre on its head. That's all from me. Take care.
Guten Morgen, Dice Tower. Quick week this week. First, I did a playthrough of Versus System, which I reviewed a few weeks ago. Really in-depth playthrough, went through a lot of the strategies and some of the nuance and depth of the game. Take a look at that. Review-wise, I did a review for Rum and Bones. Very fun, Ameritrash, head-to-head, about an hour, cool theme, pirates back and forth, awesome. Fun is the key word with this. It's a super fun game. And finally, I also reviewed Terra, which is an Essen release from last year, now being released in English. Awesome sort of trivia Euro game kind of thing. That doesn't do it any justice at all, but it's a lot of fun. We had a lot of play with it this week. Very, very fun as well. Take a look at this one. Thanks.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Aquapark's a game where you're trying to rescue marine animals and sometimes cooperating with other players by paying them off to use their dice. But in the end, it had some clunky mechanisms that just made it overly elaborate for no reason, but it did have some amazing artwork. Manhattan Traffic is a tile-laying game where you're supposed to be moving your trucks and taxis around to bump other people off the board. But in the end, it was slightly boring and the moving around just felt too restrictive and it didn't give you enough freedom. Seven Wonders Duel, oh my gosh, is an amazing two-player version of Seven Wonders, a standalone game, and I think I might even like this better than the regular Seven Wonders. They threw away the normal drafting, implemented a totally new system with some really unique, different, and fresh choices to make in this game. It's awesome, go check this out. And I also did a top 10 video of top 10 most anticipated games coming up at Essen. Check those out.
Hey, Breakfast Club. Last week I reviewed 3 games. I reviewed New Salem. This is a hidden role drafting game, which has some interesting gameplay, but really came up short for me in a few different areas, so I wasn't as thrilled with it as I was hoping I would be. It left me with this feeling of, I wish there was a little bit more here. I also reviewed The Grizzled. This is a card co-op game with a really nice theme, great look to it, very tense game, and very easy to play and teach. I highly recommend this one. And then I played another social hidden role kind of game, Time Bomb, spelled as one word, Time Bomb. And this one is a bit like New Salem. You have a character, other people don't know who you are, and you are trying to win either as the good guys, the SWAT members, or the bad guys in the game. And it's a very nice game with a very thin framework here, but all the game is happening in people's heads. You gotta psych each other out, lots of bluffing, lots of fun. This is an awesome game. And so, that's what I reviewed last week. I'll see you guys next time.
Folks, welcome back to another edition of Week in Review. The first one is this little bad boy right here. A tremendously fun game that my son has been, and the rest of my family really, has been enjoying a great amount. So, Great little dexterity game with a cool theme on it. Finally, Loop and Chewy. Was also able to review this game right here called High Heavens. High Heavens is a game that is a two-player game where one person takes the forces of Asgard and goes into battle with the forces of Mount Olympus. And basically whoever destroys the base or knocks out the entire army of their opponent first is the winner. Cool little fun game. Then I was finally able to get this one played and reviewed, and this is a great little addition to the Command and Color system by Richard Borg. It's a World War I trench warfare version of the Command and Colors system. This is worth you checking out. And finally, I was able to review this tried and true classic from 2007, Zuluretto by Michael Schacht. And it's a cool little game where you're trying to build your own little zoo and have it be the best. What's not to like about a panda on the cover, right? Cool little set collection tile laying game. Go check this out.
Reviews that I did this week, starting from the bottom to the top. I did the Star Wars Box Busters, which was it's a neat little toy, but it's not very much of a game. Then we have a Queen's Architect, which I can understand. The game flow works fine. I found it incredibly boring, disconnected from the theme, and kind of a wonky number figuring out style game. Why First is a game where you're trying to come in second place each round and then second place in points overall. Very weird and unusual, but I found it entertaining. Bomb Squad. This is like Hanabi with speed. A cooperative game where you can't see your own cards. Intriguing, although I'm not sure it's going to appeal to everybody. Little Prince. This is a game kind of like Tokaido, where you can you're moving along the track, collecting stars. Very simple game, a family style game with some very beautiful artwork. Then we have Isle of Skye. This is a tile laying game, kind of like Carcassonne, but not really. It's more about putting tiles out and having other people buy your tiles or buying your own tiles, manipulating money, and trying to get different victory conditions, which will pop up at various points over the game. Certainly something different, and I think a lot of people will dig it. Favor of the Pharaoh, which is a reprint of To Court the King, which is dice rolling. Chuck, chuck, dice, dice, dice. You keep rolling dice, trying to get more tiles, which give you more dice or ways to manipulate your dice until the big final dice roll off at the end with custom dice, lots of options. Very cool little game. Well, not little, I guess. Then we have Six Nimmt. This is a reprint of the classic game from Mayfair Games. Still a classic game where you play cards, trying not to put the sixth card in any row. And Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. Now, this is a game which I find amazingly fun. I've called it the Mysterium Killer, where everyone is trying to figure out who amongst them is the murderer. One person knows, and they're giving out clues to the players as a forensic specialist. Very neat. I added this one to my collection, and I got rid of Zendo, although I like Zendo a lot. I know there's a new version of it coming out eventually, so I'll grab that one. And then finally, Pandemic Legacy. Yes, we really, really love this. When we reviewed the game, we had played we had played it 6 times. We've now since played it 12 times. So really, it's still very, very enjoyable for us. We're looking forward to finishing it, hopefully before Essen, the whole thing, and report back what happens then.
Hi. Welcome to Board Game Miniatures. My name's Rob Oren. With this segment, I'd like to teach you guys how to paint your miniatures that come with your board games. More and more games are coming with miniatures, and the integration and everything with production values nowadays are making beautiful, beautiful miniatures. Why not paint them? You don't need to be an expert painter. You just need to be able to have the certain skill set and practice and walkthrough that I can give you. Now, we'll be taking games from the past, the present, and soon to be released games and work on each box set. And to the point where you'll be able to take your figures from this to this. Ominous looking villains and heroic looking heroes. Adding flavor and more immersion into the game. but not only immersing yourself, but opening another door to this wonderful, wonderful hobby we call board gaming. Having a sense of completion and a sense of buying into the character by painting it yourself, you'll find that you'll be very much immersed into the character itself. And when your friends come over and see all your painted figures, they'll be also involved because it helps them get into the game even more. Take those wonderful pieces of plastic and paint them and give them your own personal touch. So I hope you'll join me in future segments as we begin this wonderful journey of learning how to paint. Thanks for watching this, and if you have any comments or questions, please go to my YouTube channel. You can find me at my YouTube channel named Rob Oren. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in future episodes.
You know what gets me going? It's when a company decides to promote one game by putting pieces of that game in another game. I don't want to buy a copy of Game B just to get one more card for Game A. I don't want to buy a copy of Game B and get a card I don't know what to do with other than I have to trade it away to somebody else. I mean, yes, promos are neat and all, and it's nice to have promos available from different ways, but I don't want to have to buy a whole completely different game, one I may not even like, just to get part of a game. Now, I don't care that much because I don't need every promo for every game, but still, I'm not sure I want to see this practice continue on.
Hello and welcome to Board Games and Bow Ties. I'm Mike and we're back with another segment of my series on Gateway Gaming. And I wrote this down as point number 3 in my series, but I've come to realize that this may be the most important thing you do when introducing new people to new games. So because of this, it may take us a couple weeks to get through, but if I've learned one thing from Chaz Marler, it's that your video series can have infinite amount of segments and still be awesome. So if you're anything like me, I don't have an official gaming group, but I love playing new games. But the problem with new games is you've got to teach them to people. And without an official gaming group, this means that my non-gamer friends and family constantly listen to me excitedly explain rules to new games. If you've ever done this, you know the feeling of sitting down at a table and lifting the lid off a box, and you know that the potential fun of your night ahead hangs in the balance of the next few minutes. And with every word that leaves your mouth, the people around the table are already deciding whether they're going to have a good time. And so here's just a few tips that I use that maybe can help you convince your friends that this new game is going to be a blast. Tip number 1. It may make you cringe, but throw this thing away. Not because you don't need it, but because you should basically have it memorized. Be sure to know the rules before you try to teach them to someone else, because no one wants to sit down to play a game and have the rule book read to them. You'll lose their interest before you even start. So watch videos, read the rule book multiple times, play a few solo games with dummy players, sleep with it under your pillow, do whatever it takes to know the game. Tip number 2, get the pieces into the hands of players as soon as possible. My friends are super ADD, and for some reason, handing out pieces and having them play with them helps them listen to the rules I'm explaining. The best way I found to do this is have them help you set up the board. Hand out the pieces to people and have them put them on the board, and as you do this, you can explain to them what these pieces do and how they're going to help them win the game. Tip number 3, explain things in the order that they're going to happen. As you explain turn and round sequence in order, this helps people organize things in their brain, and this causes way less confusion later on and helps you get to the fun even faster. So this is all I've got for today, but we'll have more next week. I'm Mike. Thanks for watching Board Games and Bow Ties.
Welcome to Building Blocks with the Dukes of Dice. Hello Internet, I want to take some time and take stock of the Building Blocks segment we've been doing here on Board Game Breakfast. The idea behind the segment is to help you introduce non-gamers to some meatier games by taking really simple games that share similar mechanics and then using them as building blocks that will eventually allow these non-gamers to try some of the meatier games. How is this different than gateway games, you might ask? Good question, Internet. Well, some excellent gateway games like Lords of Waterdeep, Dominion, and even Ticket to Ride might be best used with people who already have some kind of foundation. Maybe you have a friend that plays Magic or another that played a ton of Axis and Allies when they were younger. Start with some of those quote-unquote heavier gateway games with them. For people without that background, the typical gateways might be too difficult. For example, I remember trying to teach my mom and dad Dominion. No matter how simple we kept the card pool, it was a struggle for them to follow the ABCs of Dominion: action, buy, and cleanup. For some people, building blocks are necessary. So far, we've done Sushi Go for drafting, Game of 49 for auction bidding, the Resistance for hidden teams, Bonanza for negotiation, Longhorn for spatial action selection, and 8-Minute Empire for area control. There are a ton of other mechanics to cover: pick up and deliver, route and network building, area enclosure, simultaneous action selection, and on and on and on. We've posted in the Dice Tower Guild forums asking for suggestions, as well as in the Dukes of Dice Guild, and we've gotten some great responses so far. So what do you think? What are some great, incredibly light games that can teach some of these heavier mechanics? Preferably they're easily available to acquire, and they may not be the most obvious of choices so that we can all learn about some new games. I look forward to hearing what you all have to say, Internet, and remember, don't be that guy that teaches a non-gamer Twilight Imperium just because you need to fill the 6th spot. I did that once. Anyway, this is Sean from the Dukes of Dice. Catch you next time.
One thing that I really like about the board game industry is that it's small. And because it's small, you have the opportunity to walk up to designers, to walk up to publishers, to walk up to people and talk to them at conventions. You can't do that in many industries. In the movie industry, try to go up and talk to a popular movie star or something. It's very difficult to do, but it's very easy to do in the board game industry. And that's because the board game industry is small. Now, sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that smallness when you are in the industry, because you look at these things and you'll say, wow, these companies are huge. And I've talked about this before. You know, there's really only a few huge companies like Hasbro and the European branch of Asmodee. But for the most part, most of these companies have less than 10 people. Most of them have less than 3. And a lot of them have exactly 1. Well, something similar I'd like to talk a little bit about today is with the Dice Tower, in essence of that. Now, I started the Dice Tower over 10 years ago, and it was a hobby of mine. I like to write about board games. I never expected that I would be sitting here every Monday morning giving you guys news and things. It wasn't, I don't know. I just started writing reviews, and I did interviews, and I just did anything I could think of. I thought that would be interesting about board games. And as time went by, it certainly grew. And the Dice Tower is probably 100 times the size that it was when I first started. But that's because I have many, many volunteers helping. But many times I'll see on the internet, and I'll get backlash from different people, and many times new reviewers seem to have almost a negative thing to look at. Oh, well, the Dice Tower is so huge and big and everything. But we're really not huge and big. I mean, the Dice Tower is still me working full-time, and now I have Z Garcia and Sam Healy. That is 3 of us. We also have 2 part-time folks, Eric Summerer, who does the audio for the Dice Tower, and Rob Searing, who does our website. And then we have various volunteers doing Dice Tower news and the show notes and things like that. And we're very thankful for all these people. But we're no big corporation. We don't have, we are dwarfed. Like when Will Wheaton showed up with his tabletop thing, what he was able to do with 20 episodes and get professional editing studios and all that, that dwarfed what we could do in a second. And even that is small compared to what can be done with Hollywood and other, if people really put money into it. And so we're not this gigantic presence. And I think people sometimes almost look at us as, it's easy to look and say, wow, these guys is huge. Or they come up to us at conventions, oh, you're so... No, we're really just a few ordinary guys who really like board gaming. We like to talk about it. And because people tend to listen to us for whatever odd reasons that may be, we have made a living out of it. Although I've always told people, I did it for 10 years for free to move into that point. And so now everybody's scrambling, and there's lots of reviewers out there, and there's other people who are doing this full time, and that is fantastic. But honestly, there isn't like this corporate machine. We sit down and go, ooh, this game looks fun, man. Maybe I should play this one and stuff. And that's kind of where we're at, And I'm trying to become more professional in how we do things, and I work really hard. You would be surprised at the amount of work that goes into each week. Like last week, for example, just from morning to night, we were constantly playing and editing and filming and doing business stuff. And, there's a lot that goes on. but we're still a hobby industry. And I think that's good. Dice Tower is a small hobby and industry, and it's, it's easy to pick on the people at the top to some degree. And I don't think we're at the top, right? Probably that's Wheaton, and he certainly gets his fair share of negative feedback because he's at the top. And and there's lots of different reviewers out there, and there's constantly threads. Do you like reviews? And then people will always jump in and say, you know what? I like to say why I don't like these different reviewers. That's fine. That's part of what we ask for when we get out there. But I want you to realize that there is a human face to this. We're not a corporation. This is an NBC where we're sitting there going, all right, we're trying to find something. I know people like that show, but we're going to cancel it because it's just not making enough money. That's not what we're doing here. We are trying to put out worthwhile content. And we are growing. We are getting bigger with the Dice Tower, and maybe next year in 2016 we will grow bigger than we have this year. That's a possibility, and it's something I'm always trying to do. Not because I want this to be some big thing. In fact, I'm trying to keep my salary the same from year to year because I don't want to become rich off this or anything. But I would love to be able to support more people in the hobby. I would love to be able to get things out there. I love the fact that right now from the Dice Tower, every day we have on average about 4 or 5 videos going up. And I hope that that's useful to people, that they can go there and say, wow, there are reviews. We're not reviewing everything yet. We can't even come close to that. But we're reviewing a lot. And we're putting out lots of hopefully entertaining things for people. And that makes us look big, but it's not so much us looking big. It's the fact that we are dedicated to getting out that content each and every day. And the bigger we get, the better we can do. It's comparable to a company. When they get bigger, they can make games with better components and things like that. I already have a lot of ideas and plans for 2016. I know that it's still several months away, but we start planning for that sort of thing now. Like, what changes are we going to make in 2016? Hint, one of them will be audio. All right, so we'll be working on that, on different things. And so I have some cool ideas about that, but at the same time, I think sometimes we give off this impression that we're this big conglomerate, and we're not. I want the show to be more than Tom Vasel in his basement, although there's no basements here in Florida. But we certainly get a lot of emails that say, hey, you guys are in the basement. No, I'm actually on the second floor here. But anyhow, I wanted the show to be more than that. But I also want you to realize that we're just guys, and we make mistakes all the time, Constantly, I'll get you made this thing in an email. Oh, you said that was 87 and older people play that because we make one typo. Yeah, because we're small and we miss these things. And we really look hard to make sure we don't make mistakes in our videos. But it happens. So, yeah, we've grown, certainly. But we're still pretty small because the industry's small. But overall, that's a fantastic thing for everybody in the industry because it promotes a level of friendliness and camaraderie not seen in other businesses.
Hi, Suzanne here with this week's featured board game app. I've always found the canyon that exists between board gamers and Magic the Gathering players to be an interesting divide. Personally, I'm a longtime fan of Magic and have been playing casually for over 20 years. Well, the app experience for Magic just got a big revamp and re-release, so I wanted to take a quick look. The world building and mythos of Magic is long and complex at this point, and every CCG, LCG, and deck builder must nod their head to Magic as an influence in their development. There's so much going on in this app, it's impossible to cover in a couple minutes, so I'll focus on a few key points. Magic Duels was created for people less familiar with the game. There are a ton of tutorials woven throughout that do a good job of teaching the mechanics and a few key strategic pointers. There's a deck building wizard to make it easier to start personalizing, and because it's focused on the cards in the current Origins line, it doesn't feel overwhelming. But the plan is to expand the card offerings with new real-life releases, so this will evolve quickly. But even now, there's this element of grinding. You can earn all the cards in-game, which is okay against the AI, which is deep and multi-layered, but forget going for random online games unless you're an expert and or you've dumped some money into packs. Also, there's a phase timer that takes a bit of getting used to and can be frustrating. As to experienced players, the lack of cards at this time makes the app gameplay feel a bit limited, and the core tutorial is basically forced for 3 free packs, so that's a grind. Online play is okay, but not as sleek as something like a Hearthstone. But thankfully, there's a very robust deck building function, even though I suspect an experienced player will probably feel compelled to invest in packs to get the cards they want faster, or the game will feel a bit stale. The app, unsurprisingly considering the complexity, has a few bugs, and it is a processing hog, so newer devices only. And while the game is available on a ton of platforms, it does not play across platforms, which is a shame. On the other hand, features like the daily quests are really cool and fun, and there are wonderful storytelling elements woven throughout the game. And I really like that this steps away from the annual release apps that they were trying to do that I hated. Overall, Magic Duels is a really good app with a lot to offer. Just be aware of what you want to get out of it and set your expectations appropriately. Magic Duels is free to download, so it doesn't cost you any money to give it a try.
Hi, Mikhail here for Snakes and Lattes with another installment of The Improv Gamer, the show where we show you how to have a lot of fun with a little on hand. Today we're going to be looking at Salad Bowl, or Celebrity, or as the box version is called, Time's Up. The Improv Time's Up, all you need is a writing implement, some uniform-looking sheets of paper, and a hat, a bowl, or something else that people can draw paper out of. Simply get all the players to write down a few clues on a piece of paper. We recommend 4, but for a longer game you can do 5 or more, and for a shorter game you can do 3 or less. After you've amassed your clues, throw them all into the hat and shuffle them around. Players will then take turns. Arrange the players according to what team they belong to. If you're playing with 2 teams, Team A, then Team B, then Team A, then Team B, so on and so forth. Once that's done, pick a random player to start, and you're ready to begin. As soon as the timer starts, we recommend about 40 seconds, that player will draw one of the pieces of paper out of the hat and attempt to get their teammates to guess the clue written on the piece of paper without actually saying anything printed on the piece of paper. If the team is successfully able to guess it, set the piece of paper aside. After all the clues are out of the hat, tally up the points. Each piece of paper is worth 1 point. Write them down on another piece of paper. Be sure not to throw this piece of paper into the hat. For the second round, you're going to be using the same hat and the same pool of clues. However, this time around, you're only going to be able to say 1 word when giving clues. The third round is all charades, no talking aloud. So this party game was released as a box version by R&R Games in the mid-2000s. It continues to be printed to this day and is a pretty perennial high seller for Snakes and is super popular in the cafe. This boxed version comes with hundreds of clues. All of the cards are double-sided, providing hours upon hours of playtime. It won the Mensa Select, the Top 10 Dr. Games Award, and the Perfect Party Game from the San Francisco Tribune. Thanks for tuning in to another installation of The Improv Gamer. This has been Time's Up. I've been Mikhail. Game on.
Hey folks, that's it for today. I hope that you come back and say hi in the question and answer segment later on today. I hope you enjoy the different things. I hope if you're in Michigan that you come by to Grand Con and say hi to us there. And hey, Essen is only 2 weeks away. Mind-blowing. So much going on. But I'm excited. Always looking towards the future, guys. Pay attention to our channel this week. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at CoolStuffInc.com.